Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 3 of the series. Chapter 45, Student Counselor. Chapter 45, Student Counselor. Een High School was a place that emphasized fairness and strength. Even though Yen Hanchi skipped classes every few days and was rarely seen, he had been a student counselor for 2 years, and his treatment was the same as the top student in the other classes. And today, the position of student counselor had finally fallen aside. Jing stood up. "Thank you, teacher." The class teacher liked her from the bottom of her heart and said gently, "Then you'll be responsible for collecting homework from the class in the future." "Okay," Jing said. The class teacher nodded and asked her to sit. As soon as Jing sat down, Yen Hanchi touched her arm and teased her, "Merit student, I never do my homework. Do you want to implement supervision for me?" Jing moved her hand away and said coldly, "If you don't hand it over, you'll get a demerit." Yen Hanchi raised his eyebrows. That heartless. The student counselors of every class in Een High School had a notebook in their hands. It recorded all kinds of illegal actions by students on campus. Those who had more points deducted would have to publicly reflect on themselves at the school meeting and would also be criticized by the school. Yen Hanchi used to be a student counselor, and no one could stop him from regularly skipping classes. He was not stupid enough to record his own name down. The notebook was practically collecting dust in the class teacher's drawer. This time, it was going to see the light of day again. As expected, after class, the class teacher asked Jing to collect the notebook from her. It had a yellow cover and a pen was kept inside. Jing came back with her notebook and was greeted with a wave of envious gazes. It was obvious what they were thinking. If they had this book, they would make things difficult for whoever offended them. However, Jing was not so childish. Yen Hanchi stared at the notebook in her arms, his gaze moving up until it landed on Jing's exquisite and pretty face. He swallowed and asked with a smile, "Will there be demerits for kissing?" Jing glanced at him indifferently. "It's up to you outside the school. If it happens on the school grounds, I'll report it directly to the Academic Affairs Office and let the teachers handle it." The school was strict, and it was the intention of the board of directors and the parents to strictly control puppy love. Students came from good backgrounds, so there had to be more restrictions. With their conditions, if they really liked each other, as long as they did not change their minds after the college entrance examination, there was no such thing as being separated from each other. They could easily spend some money to go to the same university. Yen Hanchi was speechless. After a while, he laughed again. All right. I'll remember it." He still dared to do it despite keeping it in mind. Anyway, he was not afraid of criticism. Until school ended, no one in class did anything out of line. Jing filled in the date on the first page of the notebook, crossed out the main part of the page, and put it in her bag. Yen Hanchi answered the phone and said, "I'll be right there." Then he turned around and said to her, "I'm sorry, I can't send you back today." Jing had no intention of letting him send her back at all. However, judging from his tone when he earlier answered the phone, she felt that something was off. She frowned and asked, "What are you going to do?" Yen Hanchi was stunned for a moment, and then the smile on his lips broadened. He looked at her deeply and said half-jokingly, "To fight, do you want to come along?" "Yen Hanchi, you'll get a demerit even if it's a fight outside school," Jing said expressionlessly. As soon as she finished speaking, the young man in front of her let out a muffled laugh. Jing looked up and met his teasing gaze. She immediately realized that she had been played. She flew into a rage due to her embarrassment and glared at him. Yen Hanchi reached out to touch her head, but she dodged. He then used the chance to scratch her nose and said in a low voice, "It's just a small matter." Chapter 46, Who is the biological sister? Chapter 46, Who is the biological sister? Who cared if it was a small matter? Jing didn't want to listen to him anymore. She turned around and packed her bag. She moved quickly and wanted to leave before Yen Hanchi, but when she turned around again, Yen Hanchi had already left the classroom. At this moment, there were only 3 people left in the classroom, Cheng Yi and her 2 new best friends. Jing inadvertently glanced over and met Cheng Yi's eyes. She walked up with her two best friends and said with a smile, "Congratulations, He Jing, for becoming the student counselor." "Thank you. Please make way." "I'm going back," He Jing said calmly. Unexpectedly, Cheng Yi turned to her two best friends and said, "You guys go ahead. I want to go to First High School with He Jing to visit my brothers." He Jing immediately frowned. However, she did not say anything. Instead, the two female students looked at her with deep hostility. "We're leaving. Don't bully Xiao Yi." He Jing was dumbfounded yet amused. She couldn't be bothered to speak. The real daughter was indeed the female lead. She had gained the trust of others so quickly and had supporters. If it was an ordinary person, it would definitely not be possible. Moreover, these two people looked so sincere. Soon, the two female students left. Cheng Yi looked at her again and smiled even more brightly. "Let's go, He Jing. Let's go to First High School together." They shouldn't be out of school yet. If He Jing did not know her true colors, she would probably be moved by such a pure smile. She glanced at her and walked out without saying a word. She didn't care what she was thinking. She just had to wait and see. Cheng Yi was rebuffed, but she didn't feel embarrassed at all. She followed He Jing unhurriedly and the two of them stepped out of Yin High School together. He Ning and He Sui were waiting outside the school. The two tall and handsome figures stood out in the crowd, attracting the attention of countless girls by the roadside. A few girls were observing and whispering not far away, most were discussing whether or not they should come up and ask for their WeChat. However, when Cheng Yi saw the two of them, she overtook He Jing and threw herself into He Ning's arms. The girls quietly walked away resentfully. He Jing stopped 2 steps away from them and watched icily as He Ning supported her body with his reddened ears. He scolded her gently, "Xiao Yi, watch your image." He Sui grumbled unhappily, "Xiao Yi, you're so biased. You only hug second brother and not me." Cheng Yi then threw herself into He Sui's arms and he twirled her round in a circle. The three of them were joyful and harmonious, as if they were biological siblings. After about 5 minutes, He Ning and He Sui finally remembered that He Jing was there. They looked up at He Jing at the same time and saw that He Jing's expression was calm and emotionless, as if it all had nothing to do with her. For some reason, the two of them felt uncomfortable. He Ning pursed his thin lips slightly and his smile gradually disappeared. He Sui silently removed his claws from Cheng Yi and distanced himself from her. Only then did He Jing step forward and greet them indifferently. "Let's go home." After saying that, she left and walked towards the bus stop. Things came to a pause. He Ning and He Sui's eyes followed He Jing as they watched her walk away. They didn't know whether to chase after her or not. Recently, there had been news of a female student being dragged into a van on the road. They couldn't let He Jing go back alone, but if they chased after her like this, Cheng Yi would be left behind by them. It wasn't easy for them to meet. After a long silence debating with himself, He Ning said with some difficulty, "Xiao Yi, when will the Qing family's car pick you up? I'll get fourth brother to wait here with you." When He Sui heard this, he got unhappy. "Second brother, you should stay here. Xiao Yi is closer to you. I'll go after that woman." Chapter 47, Apologize to her. Chapter 47, Apologize to her. Anyway, he didn't want to stay there. Cheng Yi was so angry that she was almost in tears. No, to be precise, she really cried. Her tears wet her eyelashes. They actually. He Ning and He Sui panicked and quickly comforted her. "Xiao Yi, don't think too much. You're the most important to us. If He Jing gets lost, Mom and Dad will be angry with us." Cheng Yi cried, "You guys go." The many years of affection she had with them actually lost out to He Jing, who had just become their sister. She was so confident that they would unhesitatingly choose her over He Jing. He Ning cupped her face in his hands. He Sui wiped her tears and apologized sincerely to her. He repeatedly assured her that He Jing was not as important as her before she eventually felt better. After finally coaxing her, He Ning asked, "Xiao Yi, did He Jing bully you at school?" Cheng Yi stopped sobbing and looked up at He Ning with tears in her eyes. She pretended to be puzzled. "Second brother, why are you asking?" Yesterday, the Qing family called and said that He Jing bullied you, He Ning said calmly. Fourth brother even quarreled with He Jing. Did such a thing happen? Cheng Yi lowered her head and hemmed and hawed, looking embarrassed. After a long time, she said in a low voice, "No, Sister He Jing takes good care of me at school." He Sui instantly exploded. "Don't be afraid. Tell us honestly, did she bully you? Did she?" Cheng Yi lowered her voice even more. "She really didn't." He Sui turned around and left, looking like he was going to fight someone. He Ning called out to him, "Fourth brother." He didn't manage to stop him. In the blink of an eye, he had walked away, leaving the two of them alone. He Ning pursed his thin lips and said seriously, "If He Jing bullies you, we will definitely educate her well. Don't take it to heart." Cheng Yi noticed that He Ning said, "educate her," instead of "teach her a lesson." Her face stiffened slightly and she pretended to be disappointed. "Second brother, I miss you all so much. Is it that you no longer treat me as your sister?" "How could that be?" He Ning asked. "Because you have Sister He Jing." Cheng Yi clutched the hem of her dress and bit her lower lip, saying, "Sister He Jing is so outstanding. I can't match up to her in anything. Our classmates like her, and so do the teachers. I only have the identity of a rich daughter, but in the eyes of others, I'm just a joke." He Ning immediately interrupted her. "No matter how outstanding she is, you're the only one in my heart. Don't think too much. I'll make her apologize to you." Cheng Yi didn't say anything. Her beautiful eyes glowed, revealing that she was deeply moved. He Ning's heart softened, so much so that it was a mess. He gently stroked her hair. He Sui had just reached home when He Ning also arrived. In the dark corridor, He Sui had just taken out his keys and looked at the person beside him in surprise. "Second brother, why are you back so soon? Where's Xiao Yi?" He Ning's attractive eyes were cold. "Xiao Yi asked me to come back first, saying that she was afraid that He Jing would be unhappy." He Sui raged, "He Jing, He Jing. He Jing is simply our family's jinx." As he spoke, he twisted the handle and kicked the door open. He strode in and then shouted, "He Jing, get out here." As soon as he finished speaking, He Jing's room door opened. The beautiful girl was like a princess in an oil painting, set in the door frame. She had just changed into furry slippers and was still holding a school bag in her hand. However, her cute outfit did not match the expression on her face. Her pretty face was too blank. He Jing asked, "What's the matter?" He Ning's tone was frosty. "He Jing, no matter how you were in the Qing family in the past, in the He family, you have to be responsible for your own actions if you do something wrong. Apologize to Xiao Yi." Chapter 48, It's Not Fragrant. Chapter 48, It's Not Fragrant. As soon as the words left his mouth, He Jing laughed. It was unclear whether she was laughing out of anger or because she was amused. Her eyes curved into crescents, as charming as the crescent moon, yet tinged with sarcasm. This was the first she knew of someone in the world who apologized. She could not help but be curious. What if I say no? He Sui suddenly became like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He said sharply, "He Jing, don't go too far." He Jing raised her eyebrows. "So what if I go too far? Chase me out of the He family and bring your precious Xiao Yi back if you can. Let's see if Big Brother and Mom and Dad agree." It would have been fine if she hadn't mentioned Big Brother. However, the moment she mentioned him, He Sui thought of He Yuan. He furiously stomped off to look for the landline to give He Yuan a call. If He Yuan also agreed to chase He Jing away, then He Jing would definitely leave. They did not want to give her another look. He Ning looked at He Jing. "Big Brother dotes on Xiao Yi. He won't be on your side." He Jing did not panic at all. She coolly curled her red lips up. "Even if Big Brother doesn't help me, there's still Mom and Dad. I don't believe that there's no reasonable person in the He family." Whatever it was, she was not used to their habit of framing others. The call went through very quickly. He Sui complained to He Yuan in front of He Jing. His tone was not exaggerated at all. He made He Jing out to be heinous and unforgivable, as if there was no one more abominable than He Jing in existence. He Yuan listened patiently and asked, "Then what happened between He Jing and Xiao Yi?" He Sui abruptly choked. He instantly realized that he did not seem to understand the situation, so he turned his head and shouted at He Jing, "Hey, tell us honestly how you bullied Xiao Yi in school." He Jing found it funny. "If I speak when you want me to, won't I be losing face?" He Sui was so enraged that his blood boiled. He immediately turned back and continued to gripe, "Brother, you heard it too. In short, if she stays in this family, I'll go. If I stay, she goes." He Yuan then said, "All right, I got it. I'll get a clear picture of the situation. I'm doing a part-time job. I'll hang up first." Then, with a beep, a busy tone was heard. He Sui put down the phone, as if he could already see the day He Jing was sentenced to death. He turned back and said smugly, "He Jing, you're finished." He Jing laughed. "I'll be waiting." With that, she swung her hand and closed the door. The living room returned to silence. He Sui was silent for a while before he cursed softly, F***ck. He Ning frowned as he looked at He Jing's room door, his eyes dark. The next day, He Sui got up to make breakfast. He deliberately did not make He Jing's share. He wanted to teach He Jing a lesson and let her know what she should and should not do. He Xiaogua secretly used a spoon to swipe his portion, preparing to leave it for He Jing. Although it was indeed annoying for the new sister to bully the previous sister, his mother had said that it's not good to skip breakfast. Unexpectedly, after He Jing washed up, she glanced at them and the breakfast in front of them and went downstairs expressionlessly. 5 minutes later, she returned and sat down before the three of them with a bowl of steaming ramen in her hand. This was not a bowl of ordinary ramen. It was a luxurious version of ramen with He Xiaogua's favorite fried eggs, He Ning's favorite coriander, and He Sui's favorite braised beef. The fragrance of meat, eggs, and coriander filled the entire living room. He Ning's fingers, which were holding the spoon to scoop the porridge, paused. He Xiaogua stared intently at the fried eggs in He Jing's bowl and swallowed. This was F***king. He Sui suddenly felt that the breakfast before him did not smell good anymore. Chapter 49, Stop using them and showing off. Chapter 49, Stop using them and showing off. After that, He Jing stopped going to school with them. Because she left after the fight, her posture made it seem as if she was not in the same group as peasants like them. However, they did not expect the traffic to be so bad in the morning rush hour. The bus and taxi stopped side by side. He Jing sat comfortably in the back seat of the taxi, while He Sui and He Ning stood close to each other by the door, packed like sardines. When their eyes met, He Jing indifferently retracted her gaze. He Sui leaned against the bus door and gritted his teeth. She definitely did it on purpose. He Ning had no words. In the end, the taxi arrived at the school before the bus. He Jing got out of the taxi and happened to meet Cheng Yi, who was coming out of the luxury car. Cheng Yi looked at He Jing in surprise, then understood something. She smiled and greeted He Jing. "Good morning, He Jing." He Jing didn't even look up. She replied perfunctorily with a "morning" and walked into Yin High School. Of course, Cheng Yi wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to ridicule her for no reason. She promptly caught up and asked hypocritically, did He Jing quarrel with her brothers, so she came to school alone? He Jing ignored her, as if she hadn't heard her. Cheng Yi continued, isn't He Jing curious about what I said to second brother and fourth brother yesterday? He Jing finally stopped and said frostily, there's no need to know. What else could it be? It wasn't hard to guess. Cheng Yi got a response and knew that He Jing was not feeling calm. She smiled again and stopped as well. She held her bag in front of her with both hands and said confidently and briskly, He Jing, do you know that although some people are born with bad luck, even if they were rich but switched at birth, God will not mistreat them? And some people might have a good life and could become part of a rich family even if they weren't rich, but they still have nothing. They don't have parents to dote on them, nor do they have elder brothers to dote on them. They're quite pitiful. Just like this time, you clearly didn't do anything, but everyone is on my side. He Jing, good grades aren't everything. Being smart is. Am I right? At this moment, He Jing didn't know whether to scold her or sympathize with He Sui and He Ning. She said coldly, if you really like them and treat them as your biological brothers, stop using them and showing off. Otherwise, believe me, you will lose them very soon. Cheng Yi's expression changed, and she stood up straight. That's just sour grapes, what do you know? My relationship with second brother and fourth brother will never change. Oh, really? She only knew that there was a limit to a person's patience. After being repeatedly used and hurt, feelings would slowly thin out. In the end, it would be like a glacier melting, and not a trace would be left. Then I wish you good luck. He Jing entered the classroom and was quickly surrounded by a group of people, including Wu Yu. All of them looked worried. He Jing asked, "What's wrong?" Only then did they start talking at once. Shen Qiuyu has returned to school. She didn't transfer schools. Her expression was so fierce when she came in just now. It was obvious that she wanted to cause trouble for you, Sister Jing. Sister Jing, why don't you run away? Brother, she isn't here, so Shen Qiuyu will most likely attack you. Although fighting was forbidden in the school, and Yanhanshi was a huge mountain that hung over the school, Yin High School was jointly funded by three wealthy families, Cheng, Yan, and Shen. Shen Qiuyu was the daughter of a board member, so even Yanhanshi could not touch her. In the past, He Jing was the daughter of the Qing family and had the same status as Shen Qiuyu. That was why the two of them were evenly matched. Now that her identity as the daughter of the Qing family had been replaced, she would definitely be at a disadvantage if she were to fight against her. Speaking of the devil, Shen Qiuyu had arrived. Chapter 50, The Biggest Fan. Chapter 50, The Biggest Fan. The classroom instantly fell silent. A few girls followed Shen Qiuyu. The group of them walked into the classroom aggressively, deliberately bumping into Cheng Yi's shoulder as she was about to enter. She had skipped a whole day of classes. Everyone in the class thought that she must have transferred schools, but they did not expect her to recover her vigor. The students were all feeling tense on He Jing's behalf. Wu Yu gently tugged on the clothes at He Jing's shoulder and whispered, "Sister Jing, don't provoke her first. Deal with her for a while, I'll go look for the teacher." "No need," He Jing said. In full view of everyone, what could she do to her? Cheng Yi, who was standing at the door, was delighted. Her two best friends walked up to her and gloated, saying softly, "He Jing is going to be in trouble." Cheng Yi couldn't suppress the crazy smile on her face, but she still said in a fake manner, "Don't say that. He Jing will definitely be able to handle it." In the blink of an eye, Shen Qiuyu walked to He Jing's desk in a few strides. The students who had originally surrounded He Jing automatically made way. He Jing stood and faced Shen Qiuyu, the two of them looking at each other coldly. The temperature in the classroom seemed to have dropped by several degrees. Even the air seemed to be on the verge of freezing. Suddenly, Shen Qiuyu called out, "Sister Jing. Sister Jing, I was wrong." This was simply a **king twist of fate. Wu Yu felt that his heart could not take it anymore. He Jing, on the other hand, was calm. She looked at Shen Qiuyu in amusement and said, "Oh." Shen Qiuyu sincerely reflected on herself. "I shouldn't have said that Sister Jing couldn't get first place and looked down on myself. I promise that I won't do this again." "Forget about Yanhanshi," He Jing said. "I'm not interested in him." Shen Qiuyu didn't had no doubts about that. She blinked and said, "I'm not interested in Yanhanshi either." The entire class was flabbergasted. Their school's #1 bully and school hunk was given the cold shoulder just like that. Yanhanshi, who had just arrived at the classroom, was stumped. Did girls nowadays have a change of heart so quickly? However, Shen Qiuyu was not just saying that. She was really not interested in men because Sister Jing, I've thought about it. It's really not worth it to chase after a man. You're the one who deserves to be my idol. I've decided to change Yanhanshi's fan club to He Jing's fan club. From now on, I'll be your #1 fan." He Jing was dumbstruck. There was really no need. Shen Qiuyu could not hide her adoration and admiration. She said excitedly, Of course. You're the best in the world. I'll protect your smile." "So, I thought about it. It's a pity that Sister Jing's excellence is limited to Yin High School and can't be known to others. So, I've already bought an LED screen in the city center to display Sister Jing's uncensored beauty in 3600 HD in Times Square, as well as a month of advertising on all the subway routes in a city. I'm supporting Sister Jing's hot debut in the center position." Also, when Sister Jing becomes a city's top scorer of the college entrance examinations, I'll buy Sister Jing a small planet and name it after Sister Jing. I'll let the whole world know how outstanding Sister Jing is. Right, we can also do something about with the Nasdaq screen in Times Square, New York. Please spare me. Thank you. Cheng Yi's expression was already ugly. Her two best friends comforted her. I really don't know what's wrong with Shen Chuyu's brain. She's always licking the boots of those who have good results. Xiao Yi, don't be sad. Sooner or later, you'll surpass He Jing. That's right, that's right. On the contrary, it made Cheng Yi's heart ache even more, as if she had been pierced by needles. Chapter 51, I'm your father. Chapter 51, I'm your father. The farce only ended when the bell rang. He Jing took a while to calm down. It was too terrifying. Shen Chuyu's character. The long-legged young man sat beside her and did not listen seriously. He tilted his face, his eyelashes long and thick, and asked with a smile, "Merit student, how are you going to compensate me for throwing me aside?" He Jing stared at the blackboard and took notes. Without looking up, she said, "If you speak again, 10 points will be deducted." Yan Hanqi raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, he didn't say anything else. He tore his exercise book, wrote a note, and handed it to her. He Jing looked down and saw the words, "Not a single point deducted." Is there a reward? He Jing was speechless. Did he think that she, the student counselor, was Santa Claus? To even reward. However, in order to get Yan Hanqi to stop, she replied with a single word. Yes. Yan Hanqi asked again, "What is it?" He Jing replied, "A father." Yan Hanqi raised his eyebrows when he received the note. He turned around and saw He Jing's expressionless face. The words, "I am your father," were written on it. He didn't know how to react. After class, He Jing was summoned by the class teacher. She saw her big brother, He Yuan, in the office. She never expected He Yuan to come to school personally because of such a small matter. He was wearing a white shirt and black jeans. His eyebrows were thick and sharp, and he was handsome, with a calm aura. When He Jing saw him, she instantly beamed and happily called out, "Big brother." He Yuan's expression relaxed and he quickly walked up to her. He said gently, "I'm sorry that you've suffered because I didn't care." He Jing shook her head and looked at his tanned skin. Her heart ached as she said, "No, big brother must be very tired working while studying. Actually, you didn't have to come all the way here." Seeing that He Jing was so sensible, the class teacher nodded, pleased. He Jing has excellent academic results and is a good person. Please rest. Assured that In High School has the best teaching quality. If there is a dispute between students, they will be dealt with fairly and no sides will be taken. He Yuan thanked her sincerely, "Thank you for taking care of Jingjing, teacher." He had already learned everything that had happened between He Jing and Cheng Yi. He didn't understand the war between the girls, so he just treated it as a minor conflict between girls. However, he knew very well that He Jing didn't bully Cheng Yi in school, nor did she do anything wrong. It was not what He Sui said at all. Although he didn't understand why the Qing family called to accuse He Jing, He Sui and He Ning had wronged He Jing. That was the whole truth. He Yuan had a headache when he thought about how He Sui had complained about wanting to kick He Jing out of the He family the day before. He Sui had been impulsive all along. This time, he had really gone overboard. Hence, he turned his head and said in a low voice, "I'll pick you up after school today." It was obvious that he wanted to support He Jing. Okay. He Jing's red lips curled up slightly. He Yuan patted her head again and didn't say anything else. He told her to go back to class. He Jing remembered that he had low blood sugar because he was studying and working for 18 hours a day. She took out a fruit candy and stuffed it into his hand. "Big brother, don't work too hard. Remember to rest." He Yuan looked down at the fruit candy in his palm and felt his heart warming. He lifted his head and saw that He Jing had already disappeared from the office. After school that day, He Yuan did not go back on his word and came personally to pick He Jing up. Chapter 52, Investigation. Chapter 52, Investigation. Before he arrived, He Sui and He Ning were already there. They stood out in the crowd like before, attracting the attention of many girls. He Jing had just come out of the Een High School when she heard He Sui grumbling unhappily, "What is Big Brother up to, calling us to the entrance of Een High School? What can't we talk about at home?" He Ning was still cold and aloof. With one hand in his pocket, his beautiful brows furrowed with a trace of impatience. He Sui was used to being ignored by him, but he was still open-minded. "Hey, second brother, do you think that Big Brother was too enraged when he found out that He Jing bullied Xiao Yi, so he decided to draw a line with He Jing at the entrance of Een High School and bring Xiao Yi back?" He Ning silently glanced at him. "Do you think that's possible?" No matter how overboard He Jing was, she was still their sister. He Yuan would not do such a thing without considering their parents' feelings. He Sui knew that it was impossible, but sincerely hoped for it, so he said it out loud. "I hope Big Brother will come later and teach He Jing a lesson." "Hey." He Jing walked towards them, feeling both angry and amused. When He Yuan came later, who knew who would be the one to really get it from him? He Sui turned around and saw He Jing standing behind him. He got a fright, as if he had seen a ghost. "When did you arrive?" "Only just," He Jing said lightly. He Sui glowered at her and mumbled. His voice was so soft that it could not be heard clearly. Then, he said seriously, "He Jing, we'll give you one last chance. As long as you promise to apologize to Xiao Yi, we'll let bygones be bygones and put in a good word for you in front of Big Brother. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as an apology later." Although He Yuan was gentle, he was actually very fierce, even fiercer than them. He Jing deliberately teased them. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "I bullied your precious Xiao Yi, and you can forgive me." He Sui was immediately provoked and glared at her. "Don't do this again." He Jing raised her eyebrows. It was obvious that nothing was going in and gave a perfunctory attitude. Even He Ning, who was used to being indifferent and casual, said coldly, "No matter what you do, we can put up with you. Except for this matter." He Jing grunted and reluctantly gave an answer. "We'll see." "You." The three of them were getting increasingly hostile when He Yuan finally got off the bus, arriving late. He had probably just finished his part-time job and hadn't even changed out of his work clothes before he rushed over. Before he could get close, he apologized gently, "Sorry, I'm late." He Jing smiled sweetly, her eyes curved. "It's not late. I just got out of school." He Sui stood beside He Jing and felt He Jing's beauty at close range. He could not help but curse to himself, "You really know how to pretend in front of Big Brother." Then, he walked over to He Yuan and called out, "Brother." He Yuan didn't even look at him. He walked towards He Jing and took out a keychain from behind him. "Here." He Jing saw that there was a very small and cute Pikachu doll hanging on the keychain. This was the first time she had received such a gift. She was so delighted that her eyes narrowed into slits and she gave He Yuan a big hug. "Thank you, Big Brother." He Sui looked on jealously. "Do you have to do this for a keychain? Don't you know how to restrain yourself outside?" This D***ned woman had never smiled so brightly at him before. As soon as he finished speaking, he realized that something was amiss. He rushed to He Yuan's side and said angrily, "Big Brother, she bullied Xiao Yi, and you still bought her a gift. Aren't you being too biased?" It would have been better if he hadn't taken the initiative to bring this up, but once he did, He Yuan's face darkened. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "I applied for half a day off from school for this." Chapter 53, The Truth. Chapter 53, The Truth. He Sui choked and blinked dazedly. What do you want to do to He Jing? After all, this was the first time she has made such a mistake. There's no need to be too heavy. He Yuan slapped the back of his head. Apologize to Jing. He Sui, who had just been kind to He Jing, was stupefied. What? Apologize? To Jing. These words slowly came out of He Yuan's mouth. He recognized every word, so why couldn't he understand them when they were strung together? He Sui almost subconsciously said without thinking, "Why should I apologize to He Jing when she bullied Xiao Yi? I won't." Jing didn't bully Xiao Yi, He Yuan said seriously. I took half a day off today and went to Yin High School to ask Jingjing and Xiaoyi's class teacher about the situation. On the other hand, Jingjing was bullied in school by the Shen family's daughter and was then framed by you guys. You guys are really something. He Sui's expression suddenly changed. He looked at He Jing and reprimanded, "Were you bullied at school? Why didn't you say so?" He Jing looked at him in amusement. He Sui cowered and resentfully retracted his gaze. He turned back to He Yuan and said unwillingly, "What could the class teacher know? Maybe He Jing secretly bullied Xiao Yi. Otherwise, why would Xiao Yi cry and say those words in front of us? Then you'll have to ask Xiao Yi." To be honest, he was also shocked when he found out that He Jing hadn't done anything to Cheng Yi. After all, He Sui had made such a big deal out of it and seemed as though he was going to embarrass He Jing today. He thought that He Jing had at least humiliated Cheng Yi verbally. However, she had not. He Jing had never said anything unpleasant to Cheng Yi. On the other hand, Cheng Yi's public rebuke on the second day of school was suspected of targeting He Jing. Yin High School was a small place, and everyone knew about the slightest commotion. Even seated in the office, the class teacher knew everything. Moreover, the class teacher had called the students to the office to ask for details. These words were all said by the students themselves. At this point, He Yuan did not think about anything else. He only wanted his two younger brothers to apologize to He Jing. He pressed down on He Sui's head and icily lectured him, "You accuse Jingjing without distinguishing right from wrong and still dare to quibble. This is what the He family taught you. Apologize." He Sui had no room to resist under his big brother's authority. He snorted unwillingly, "I'm sorry." He Yuan slapped him again. Louder. "I'm sorry," he said loudly. He Jing wouldn't go so far as to make things difficult for a 17-year-old kid. Of course, she generously forgave him. However, when she thought of how infuriating his previous words were, He Jing couldn't help but dig up old wounds. "I'm so vicious that you won't treat me as your sister anymore?" He Sui was speechless. "I'm so despicable. If I stay in the He family, you'll go. If you stay, I'll go." He Sui's face flushed red and he glared at her angrily. "He Jing, enough is enough." He Jing refused and taunted him. He Sui felt guilty. He lowered his head and said, "I was wrong, okay. I definitely won't treat you like this in the future. That's a good boy." After teaching He Sui a lesson, it was He Ning's turn. He Jing merely looked over. He Ning had no words. 3 seconds later. "I'm sorry, it's my mistake," he said coldly. As he spoke, he did not give He Jing any room to express herself. He turned to He Yuan and said, "Brother, you guys go back first. I'll wait for Xiao Yi here. I have something to ask her." Chapter 54, I like you the most. Chapter 54, I like you the most. He Yuan knew that He Ning had always been a paranoid person. He couldn't rest without clarifying certain things with her. He nodded and said, "Then Jingjing, let's go back first." He Jing did not probe. She smiled at He Yuan and walked off with him. There was a huge crowd at the entrance of the Yin High School. More and more students came out. He Ning waited there alone like a persistent green tree. After a while, he finally saw Cheng Yi and her two best friends exit. When Cheng Yi saw He Ning, her face lit up. She asked her two best friends to leave first before walking over to He Ning alone. When she didn't see He Sui, she asked in surprise, "Where's fourth brother?" "He went back with big brother." Cheng Yi's eyes widened. Big brother was here too. After a pause, she suddenly felt that something was amiss. "Then why did big brother leave before he saw me?" He Ning was silent for a moment before he answered, "Why did you cry a few days ago such that the Cheng family called us?" When Cheng Yi heard this, she immediately felt bad. Seeing He Ning's attitude and He Yuan's visit to the school, she guessed that things were most likely exposed, so she quickly lowered her head and replied in a disappointed tone, "I'm sorry, second brother. I made you worry. I didn't do well in my monthly exams, so I couldn't help but cry. Why didn't you tell me when I asked you before?" He Ning frowned deeply. Because of her, they had wronged He Jing for no reason. Cheng Yi looked up in confusion. "Do I have to say this?" "I'm sorry, Second brother. I felt too embarrassed, so I didn't tell you. He Ning was speechless. Thinking about it carefully, when he asked if He Jing had bullied her, she had indeed said no. However, He Ning felt inexplicably uncomfortable. He kept feeling as if he had been tricked and had suffered a loss, so much so that he looked at Cheng Yi strangely. Cheng Yi's pure and pretty face was filled with uncertainty. Second brother, what's wrong? He Ning stared at her for a while, then looked away and said, nothing. Cheng Yi seemed to have guessed the whole story. She covered her mouth and said in surprise, second brother, could it be that you misunderstood Sister He Jing because of this and did something to her? He Ning was hit on the head by an invisible stick and fell into a state of frustration. He pursed his lips and did not speak. Cheng Yi immediately restrained her emotions and held He Ning's hand. It's all because of me that you did such an impulsive thing. I'm sorry. Next time, I'll make it clear. Tomorrow, I'll go to Sister He Jing to explain and ask for her forgiveness. After all, she was his younger sister who had grown up with him. Moreover, he was the one who liked. He Ning closed his eyes and completely accepted the fact that his recklessness had led to this series of misunderstandings. After controlling his emotions, he returned to his normal self and turned to look at her with a gentle gaze. You didn't mean it. There's no need to apologize. Besides, I've already apologized. Cheng Yi hugged him and buried her face in his arms. She said softly, second brother, you're the person I trust the most. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Next time, no matter if it's true or not, don't stand up for me anymore. After all, Sister He Jing is your sister. He Ning's heart skipped a beat. He let out a sigh and suppressed the fire in his heart. He said calmly, don't worry, I know what to do. No matter what, he would never let anyone hurt her. Even if that person was his younger sister, he still wouldn't allow it. Cheng Yi looked up and smiled sweetly. Second brother, you're so good to me. I like you the most. He Ning stared deeply at her. His cold face was as warm as melted spring water, and his thin lips could not help but curl up. He reached out and gently stroked her hair with an indescribable longing. Chapter 55, An Acrobat in Her Previous Life. Chapter 55, An Acrobat in Her Previous Life. Cheng Yi didn't notice it at all and broke away from him. Second brother, I have to go back. All right, I'll send you off. He Jing followed He Yuan home. He Sui was too quiet on the way back. He looked a little depressed, as if he had suffered a huge loss and had no place to talk about it. He Jing more or less knew what he was thinking. Her red lips curled up without batting an eyelid. As the saying goes, experience is the father of wisdom. With this lesson, they would not dare to blindly trust Cheng Yi again. This was also the reason why she had not wanted to explain too much. Moreover, she had also deliberately used He Yuan as a backup when their relationship as siblings had frozen to a certain extent. She didn't know much about the other brothers, but she had some confidence in He Yuan's personality. After all, he was going to be a CEO in the future. How could he be impulsive like these two 17- or 18-year-old kids? He must be more rational than emotional. Not long after they arrived home, He Ning also came back. He didn't seem to be in a bad mood. It was obvious that the real heiress had found an excuse to brush him off. He Jing wasn't discouraged and didn't think much of it. After all, just like how the female supporting character was born unable to walk the path with the male lead, the second male lead would naturally lose his intelligence when it came to the female lead. Nothing could escape the law of fiction. He Sui saw that He Ning had come back to life in an instant and hurriedly moved closer to him, asking him what he had said to Cheng Yi. He Ning lowered his eyes and helped explain things on behalf of Cheng Yi to calm He Sui down. As expected, He Sui's depression disappeared and he became lively again. I knew Xiao Yi didn't do it on purpose. It was an oversight as she had failed her monthly test. With that, he turned to look at He Jing. Unlike a certain someone who is calculative, Xiao Yi is my good sister, humph. He Jing couldn't be bothered with him. She went into the kitchen and helped He Yuan. After a while, the kitchen was filled with laughter and a joyous atmosphere. He Yuan only stayed for a day before returning to school. He Jing felt that it was a pity that the two of them had such a short time together. Before he left, she bought him a large jar of candy and asked him to bring it to the dormitory. Yuan rubbed her head. Don't waste money. Buy more delicious food for yourself and take good care. Jing picked up the keychain and waved it in front of him. I like the gift that you brought for me. Yuan's calm and handsome face revealed a doting expression. I'll bring you more the next time I come back. Jing nodded and sent him out. It was not until he got on the bus that she turned around to get her bag and prepare to go to school. Sui popped his head out and said sourly, You're so good to Big Brother, but so bad to me. Those who don't know better might think that Big Brother is your biological brother and I'm your cousin. If you want, I can call you cousin, Jing retorted. Sui spat 3 times in a row and grabbed Jing's arm. You have to treat me like how you treat Big Brother, do you hear me? Jing rolled her eyes. My foot. How can you be like this? You can't even hold a bowl of water level, showing your favoritism. In my previous life, I was an acrobat. I've never held a bowl level. Ned woman, you. Ning followed the two of them from a distance. Listening to them bicker, he felt inexplicably irritated. After such a big misunderstanding, the relationship between the two of them became even better. When Jing arrived at school, she found that the campus was especially lively that day. Many people were in groups, holding their phones and discussing something. Suddenly, a bang came from the side, attracting the attention of everyone nearby. The corners of Jing's mouth twitched. She felt that this scene was familiar. Chapter 56, Who is the School Belle? Chapter 56, Who is the School Belle? Then, she turned around and saw Shen Qiuyu pinning someone against a tree. The girls behind her were waving flags excitedly. Shen Qiuyu said domineeringly, For the school belle selection, vote for Jing. Understand? Jing is High School's most beautiful one, a fairy descended to the mortal world. If I hear you praise that little b*tch Cheng-yi again, I guarantee that you will avoid me in the future. The boy who was pinned down trembled and nodded his head like a chicken pecking at rice. Shen Qiuyu clapped her hands in satisfaction. She stepped back and looked behind. When she saw Jing, her face instantly lit up. Sister Jing. Jing's hair stood and she walked away. Shen Qiuyu quickly followed and held her arm, as if they had been good friends for 10 lifetimes. Sister Jing, High School is going to choose a new school belle. I've already mobilized more than half of High to vote for you. I guarantee that you'll be the champion. Jing remembered that in the original novel, the school belle was the real heiress. All the people who tried to compete with her for the title of school belle had all had a lot of scandals. She thought about it and found that Shen Qiuyu wanted her dead. Seeing that Jing did not answer, Shen Qiuyu observed her expression and even blinked innocently. She said in confusion, Sister Jing, why are you unhappy? Jing took a deep breath and said seriously, I don't want to be the school belle. Shen Qiuyu was baffled and felt even more puzzled. Why? I just want to study hard, Jing said. Although Shen Qiuyu admired Jing's dedication to her studies, she felt that Jing had to do this because Sister Jing, if you become the school belle, you can shoot a school publicity MV with the school hunk, brother she. Jing fell silent. She definitely couldn't do it now. No matter how much Yan Hanqi hated Cheng Yi, he was destined to be Cheng Yi's man. If she wanted to avoid being cannon fodder, she had to stay far from him. Shooting a music video. Wasn't that asking for trouble? No, I can't. Shen Qiuyu replied with an, oh, and said regretfully, then I'll take down Sister Jing's photo later. The two of them entered the classroom together. When she arrived at class, Jing took out her phone and browsed the school forum. Only then did she realize that there was a blurry image of herself in the first place. It showed that she had more than 500 votes. The second-placed senior, Su Bai, only had more than 200 votes. Cheng Yi was ranked second from the bottom. She really didn't expect that the number of votes for the school belle in the original novel would be so miserable. She should have been able to leave the others in the dust. Wu Yu, who was sitting next to her, suddenly exclaimed, who deleted Sister Jing's photo. It wasn't easy for me to open more than 10 accounts to vote for Sister Jing. No wonder her votes had risen so quickly. It turned out that she had such a powerful army of trolls. Shen Qiuyu replied, I deleted it. Sister Jing said she wasn't interested in being the school belle. Wu Yu looked up and turned to look at He Jing. He asked in confusion, why? Sister Jing is so pretty. She deserves to be the school belle. Cheng Yi and her two best friends had just entered the classroom when they heard this. Of course, Cheng Yi also knew about the school belle selection. When she was in the luxury car, she had flipped through her ranking and found that she was near the bottom. She almost fainted from anger. She thought that she was not inferior to He Jing in terms of looks, but no one voted for her. This was unacceptable to her. Cheng Yi's two best friends were even more unable to accept it. One of them, Zhang Men, immediately said, why does He Jing deserve to be the school belle? Isn't Xiao Yi better looking than He Jing? Chapter 57, Controlling the Votes. Chapter 57, Controlling the Votes. Shen Qiuyu abruptly stood up and went straight to the point. Don't flatter yourself. Sister Jing is miles ahead of her in terms of temperament and looks. She was clearly in front of her, but she still had to speak sarcastically. In her anger, Zhang Men forgot the difference in status and complained indignantly, Shen Qiuyu, aren't you just relying on your power and money? No one dares to go against you, so you're forcing others to vote. If she's that capable, don't control the votes and we'll see. Shen Qiuyu had never been afraid of anyone. She continued to retort, you're talking as if the Qing family has no money or power. If you have the ability, you can control the votes too. You want to get first place without spending money or putting in any effort. You still have the cheek to spout nonsense. Zhang Men was so furious that she laughed. The school belle selection is based on good looks. Yeah, it's about looks. Shen Qiuyu said coldly, Sister Jing's good looks moved me, so I was willing to control the votes for her. Who asked her to not be good enough? So no one helped her. To put it bluntly, she's not good-looking nor charming. Even if she became the school belle, she would be embarrassed to flaunt it, afraid that others would misunderstand that Maiyin High School only produces flower vases. Even the calm He Jing could not help but burst out laughing. Shen Qiuyu's mouth was too venomous. As expected of a vicious supporting actress like her. It was really impossible for her to not have some combat strength. Cheng Yi's face had obviously turned the color of puce, and she could no longer maintain her elegance. Zhang Men couldn't argue with Shen Qiuyu, so she pulled at Cheng Yi and said, undercover operation. We don't want to be the school belle anymore. Whoever wants it can go ahead. Cheng Yi was pulled at, but she didn't move. Her hands curled tightly into fists. How could she accept not being the school belle? Yesterday, she had been questioned by He Ning and had already lost that round to He Jing. She had to get back at her no matter what. She did not believe that He Jing would always be so lucky to be able to surpass her in every aspect. She did not want to hear Cheng Yu sigh at the dinner table and talk about He Jing's outstanding past. She wanted to overtake He Jing and become someone that everyone looked up to. She was the true heiress. Xiao Yi, as if she knew what she was thinking, her other best friend, Lu Sisi, called out to her softly, the Qing family is no worse than the Shen family. Why don't we control the votes too? She simply needed to spend some money to buy some votes and they'd definitely catch up. Cheng Yi bit her lip and did not respond for a long time. Until Sisi said, it's not that you don't follow the rules. It's that they're too despicable. We were just defending ourselves. Cheng Yi nodded hesitantly. The three of them no longer continued to argue with Shen Qiuyu. They returned to their seats and began to discuss the matter of buying tickets. The school's votes had all been bought by Shen Qiuyu, so there was not much to fight for. It was better to buy votes from other schools. After all, the school belle selection was an open event, so it was normal for other schools to join in the fun. He Jing didn't care what Cheng Yi was planning next. She handed a glass of water to Shen Qiuyu. She should be thirsty after speaking up for her. Shen Qiuyu still felt that it was a pity and advised, Sister Jing, why don't you participate? Look at Cheng Yi's arrogance. Don't tell me that you want her to suppress you. You're clearly the most beautiful. Wu Yu echoed, yes, yes, Sister Jing. It's meaningless if you don't participate in the school belle selection. He Jing smiled but did not say anything. The female lead's looks had always been in line with the public's taste. If it were not for Shinchuyu's strong canvassing for votes, few would have voted for her. She really felt that there was no need to feel that it was a waste. As for the school hunk, Jing suddenly thought, was Yan Hanshi the school hunk before? How come I didn't see any music videos he filmed with anyone else? Shinchuyu thought that Jing was interested in Yan Hanshi but didn't want to reveal it. She quickly replied, brother, she has always been the school hunk, but he doesn't want to shoot. No one in school dares to get him to do it, so the male lead in the music video is automatically replaced. Oh, Jing understood. According to the laws of fiction, the male leads first should be reserved for the female lead. Presumably, after Cheng Yi became the school belle this year, Yan Hanshi would shoot a music video with her. She was also anxious that the relationship was developing so slowly. Chapter 58, Looking for Trouble. Chapter 58, Looking for Trouble. Yan Hanshi skipped another day of class that day, so Jing deducted 10 points from him. Thanks to the relentless efforts of Cheng Yi's two best friends, Cheng Yi's votes finally increased visibly. From 20 votes to 300 votes, she surpassed her senior, Su Bai, and took the number 1 spot. Jing only took a glance and closed the school forum. She did not pay further attention to it and packed her bag to leave the school. However, Cheng Yi walked over with Lu Sisi and Zhang Men. Before she could say anything, Zhang Men said in a mocking tone, Jing, why did you withdraw from the school belle selection? While waiting for Jing to give her an ice cream treat, Shinchuyu sneered. Of course it's because she doesn't want to compete with a certain pheasant and lower herself. She can only endure it. Jing wanted to laugh again. These two best friends were like two defenseless little hens in front of Shinchuyu's maximum combat power. Zhang Man's expression turned ugly. Shinchuyu, would it kill you to speak nicely? Before Shinchuyu could speak, Jing's red lips curved up. You know that she's here, but you still have to come and provoke her and find trouble for yourselves. Isn't it that there's something wrong with your heads? Shinchuyu realized that Jing's words could be really mean. No wonder the two of them could previously argue evenly. She was delighted. It turned out that they were born to be sisters. Cheng Yi's expression turned cold. She pulled Zhang Men, who was about to flare up, and said, forget it, let's go. The school is about to close. We should go home. After the three of them left, Jing walked out of the classroom with Shinchuyu. Jing treated Shinchuyu to a Pizza Hut-flavored cone that even came with a second cup at half price. Shinchuyu ate her ice cream and couldn't help but complain to her idol. Sister Jing, you're too stingy. I'm the dignified daughter of the Shin family, and you actually treated me to such cheap ice cream. Jing did not hide it and replied directly, I can't afford it. Shinchuyu didn't believe it. You're already so poor. Didn't the Ching family help you? They gave it to me, but I didn't take it, Jing said lightly. Shinchuyu thought about it and said, that's true. With a villain like Cheng Yi around, it's not safe to take the money. It's better not to take it. Jing finished her ice cream and wiped her mouth with a tissue. She said, I have to go find my brothers. I'll leave first. Shinchuyu was still licking the ice cream that had melted because she had not paid attention to it. When she heard that, she hurriedly raised her head. Jing had already disappeared into the crowd. When Jing arrived at First High School, she was carrying a lot of delicious Lu. As soon as Sui came out of school, he shamelessly came up and said excitedly, are there beef meatballs today? No, Jing smiled. Who would eat beef meatballs every day and not get sick of them? Sui was a little disappointed. He grabbed a piece of barbecued meat and said as he ate, you must remember to buy beef meatballs tomorrow. Xiaoguo loves them. Jing was speechless. Then why are you eating all the meatballs? Not a single one went to Xiaoguo. Sui's face flushed and he let out a soft sigh. I'm just eating a few of your beef meatballs. You're so stingy. When I go to university and become successful, I'll buy you whatever you want and give you all that I earn. That was precisely what Jing wanted Sui to say, that it was not a matter of money, as long as she wasn't cannon fodder at the critical moment. Thinking of this, she stuffed a few more sticks of roasted meat into Sui's hands. After she was done, she suddenly remembered that there was someone else beside her. Jing. turned and handed over the plastic bag containing the roasted meat. "Second brother, do you want to eat?" He Ning's eyes had a gloomy look and he seemed unhappy. "No," he said coldly. After saying that, he strode ahead of them. The three of them walked one after another and soon arrived at the bus stop. He Jing waited for the bus with the crowd of people who were getting off work and school. She inadvertently caught a glimpse of a tall and slender figure. Chapter 59, Chapter 59, Come Home With Me. Chapter 59, Come Home With Me. The young man was very eye-catching among the surging crowd. It was as if he was born with a sense of superiority. Wherever he went, he shone. He Jing couldn't take her eyes off him. These D***ned laws of fiction again. The female supporting role stood rooted when saw the male lead. Yan Hanshi followed a group of unknown people into the luxurious club opposite the bus, leaving only his shadow. No wonder he didn't have time for class. It turned out that he was perfecting his flirting manual in such a place. He Jing quickly came back to her senses and turned to He Ning and He Sui. "Second brother, fourth brother, you guys go back first. I have something to do." Coincidentally, a bus heading home came up. He Sui said unhappily, "What's so important that you have to do it now? It's going to be dark soon. Going home alone." Hey. He Jing actually got on the bus and swiped her card before getting off. She pushed them up and speedily escaped from the crowd. He Ning frowned and finally said, "Let's go." The doors of the bus closed and it left. He Jing crossed the road and arrived at the entrance of the club. This kind of luxurious club was a place for rich people to spend. Usually, only adults would enter. There was a mix of good and bad people within, and it was difficult to tell them apart. It was full of dirty transactions and even secret gambling, and not a place that students should enter. Therefore, as soon as she approached, she was stopped by the bodyguards. "Students are not allowed to enter." He Jing looked down at her clothes. Everyone who lived here recognized the school uniform of Yin High School. Yan Hanshi was not wearing it when he went in. He Jing circled left and right and found a large department store 2 meters to the left of the club. She slung her bag and turned left. 10 minutes later. "Hello, welcome to Cool Sound Club." After putting on a disguise, He Jing no longer looked like a student. She stood 10 centimeters tall and wore a white dress. Her straight hair spilled down like a waterfall, and her sunglasses covered most of her face, revealing only her sharp nose and brightly painted red lips. She was as elegant as a socialite from high society. When the receptionist in the club saw her, it was as if he had seen a fat sheep. He welcomed her warmly. "Hello, ma'am. Is this your first time here?" He Jing took off her sunglasses and flipped her hair, looking very charming. The receptionist was stunned. Such beauty was too shocking. Could it be that she was a small celebrity who was about to debut? However, He Jing only glanced at him arrogantly and said calmly, "Hello, I'm here to look for my son." Looking for her son. The receptionist's face froze, and he almost couldn't maintain his smile. He looked at He Jing's supple and youthful face, which could not be covered even with makeup. He asked carefully, "Ma'am, how old are you?" He Jing said impatiently, "I'm almost 40. Why? Is there a problem?" It wasn't. This was more than just a problem. This was a huge problem. He had seen so many women, but he had never seen one who was 40 years old and looked so young. "How old is your son?" 17 years old, the most handsome of those who came in just now. But his ID card shows that he's an adult. He stole it from his brother. The two of them chatted as the receptionist brought her to the second floor in the elevator. As soon as they stepped out of the elevator door, their eardrums were shattered by the loud music. This was a massive entertainment hall that stretched as far as the eye could see, taking up an entire floor. There was a band on a stage in the corner, singing rock and roll till they were hoarse. Unfortunately, no one was enjoying it. The people in the hall were playing snooker and darts. Chapter 60, Only My Wife Can Control Me. Chapter 60, Only My Wife Can Control Me. There were also people playing Truth or Dare in the resting area. A bunch of people heckled, "Go on and kiss." Suddenly, a couple started kissing as if no one else was around. The receptionist felt inexplicably embarrassed. He felt that such an occasion was not suitable for He Jing. He secretly turned around and took a glance. However, He Jing's expression was calm, as though this was commonplace. He finally accepted that there were people in this world who were blessed with youthful looks. They could look as young as 18 years old at the age of 40. After passing through this lively area, the receptionist led He Jing to a door and said, "Ma'am, your son is inside." He Jing nodded and said lightly, "All right, it's been hard on you. You may leave." Then, she twisted the handle, walked in, and closed the door. In an instant, all the noise faded away. The soundproofing in the room was excellent, and there was almost no noise from outside. He Jing scanned everyone in the room and saw that there were more than 20 people in total. Yan Hanqi was leaning against the edge of a billiard table. His facial features looked deep and unruly under the dim light. The white school uniform outlined his tall and slender figure. Although he was a little immature, his temperament was indeed not much different from those who came here. No wonder the club would let him in as an adult. While He Jing was sizing them up, they were also sizing her up. The atmosphere here was not good to begin with. With He Jing suddenly barging in, the scene became even more tense. A boy with freckles all over his face said unkindly, "Old lady, you're in the wrong room." Yan Hanqi laughed and said in a teasing tone, "Don't you have any manners? Someone so young should be called auntie. As he spoke, he turned to look at He Jing with a mocking gaze. "Right, auntie." He Jing's expression turned cold. She called out even more unkindly than the men with the brown spots, "Yan Hanqi." Her voice was sweet and soft. It was not an auntie. The students who had taken off their uniforms understood and asked with widened eyes, "Is she from Yin High School?" Yan Hanqi raised his eyebrows. "Maybe she's from your first high school." The first high school student furiously denied, "T. There's no girl as good-looking in my school." Yan Hanqi smiled again. "All right. Since none of you want her, I'll reluctantly accept her. Student He Jing, come here." This student He Jing was gentle and romantic, like a feather gently scratching one's heart. He Jing frowned. She was unwilling, but she still obediently walked to his side and, in a voice that only the two of them could hear, said, 50 points will be deducted for entering and leaving indecent places in private." Yan Hanqi stared ahead, not paying attention to her words. He softly hushed her and said, "Don't talk. I'll write you a self-reflection after you've deducted 100 points. He Jing wanted to hit him, but he didn't even care about 100 points. At this moment, the student from first high school said, "Let's continue from where we stopped." Yan Hanqi, you won't go back on your word, will you? Of course. Yan Hanqi replied. Only then did He Jing realize that in addition to the pool table, there was also a dartboard in the room. There were several blue darts inserted into the dartboard, and several of them hit the bullseye. Seeing that Yan Hanqi was about to go over, He Jing grabbed his hand and asked in a low voice, "What are you doing?" "Playing with them," Yan Hanqi said. As if He Jing believed him. When she came in, the strangeness in the room didn't escape her. It was obvious that the crossbow was drawn and a fight could break out in the next second. He Jing stopped him and said, "No." Yan Hanqi looked at her with a smile. "If you're afraid that I'll lose, cheer me on in your heart. Only my future wife can control me." Chapter 61, Strong. Chapter 61, Strong. He Jing retracted her hand and glared at him. If one refuses to listen to the words of the wise, then one must be prepared to suffer a loss. There was nothing anyone could do if he chose to be obstinate. The student from first high school said sourly, "It's just throwing darts. Look at you two, sticking together like a couple. If we win, first high school will admit defeat and won't cause trouble for the girl who called the police to arrest our boss. If he loses, Yan Hanqi will come to our first high school and apologize to all the students at the flag-raising ceremony on Monday. If you don't agree, we'll expose this matter. No one will get out of it unscathed." He Jing understood the crux of the matter. Was Yan Hanqi here to stand up for her? Who asked him to stick his nose in her business? He Jing may have thought as much, but she kept it to herself, sparing Yan Hanqi a glance. Meanwhile, Yan Hanqi held a yellow dart and stood behind the designated line, readying himself to throw his dart. He suddenly turned to look at her. He Jing met his gaze briefly before averting her eyes, training them on her heels instead. The dart hit the dartboard. He Jing couldn't help but look up. Yan Hanqi's yellow dart had hit the bullseye. It was an eye-catching sight. Involuntarily, a smile crept to her lips, delight glimmering in her eyes. Yan Hanqi caught her in the act, causing He Jing's face to burn in embarrassment, her mouth drawing a smooth line. "Just smile if you're happy," Yan Hanqi said. "There's no need to hide it. I promise I won't look if you don't want me to." Bah. He Jing cursed secretly. Her mind did one thing while her body did another. He Jing's upturned brows betrayed her true feelings, the happiness she sought to hide. True to his word, however, Yan Hanqi did not peek. Instead, he focused on the dart still waiting to be thrown. Not one failed to hit the bullseye. The students from First High School watched helplessly. While impressed by the display, they were unhappy to be on the losing end. Unwilling to admit their defeat, they demanded a rematch. Again. Yan Hanqi was not in the mood to humor them, however. He had other plans more fun than pandering to First High School's inability to accept their loss. Shrugging, he sidled up to He Jing, looking determinedly uninterested. He Jing smiled. "If Yan Hanqi doesn't wish to continue, how about letting me replace him?" The students from First High School sized up He Jing suspiciously. "Do you know how to play?" Of course, He Jing knew how to throw darts. She was good at throwing darts but humbly said, "I know a little." Unexpectedly, the First High School students refused to let her act as Yan Hanqi's substitute. "No, we won't accept it if it isn't Yan Hanqi playing." "Yan Hanqi, let's go for another round." Yan Hanqi eyed He Jing, who remained expressionless. "I'm the girl who got your boss arrested by calling the police." The room exploded in a cacophony, the students of First High School being the chief source. Yan Hanqi smirked playfully. "Are you still against me subbing in?" He Jing asked. "How could they not play?" "I'm playing." "That's good," He Jing said. "The bet that Yan Hanqi made with you doesn't count." "I'll bet with you myself." "Why?" The students from First High School were dumbfounded. Hadn't the match already been concluded in He Jing and Yan Hanqi's favor? He Jing wrung her hands, glancing at Yan Hanqi. "I don't like owing others." Yan Hanqi's smile evaporated. It morphed into one of helplessness. Girls these days were not cute. They were too stubborn. He Jing was none the wiser to Yan Hanqi's thoughts as she picked a few pink darts from the tray and said, "I'll use these." "Pink? All right." The men with brown spots who would play against her picked a few green darts. "I won't go easy on you just because you're a girl. Don't go crying to Yan Hanqi when you lose." He Jing nodded and asked, "Are you going first, or shall I?" The men with sporting brown spots behaved gentlemanly and gestured please with his hand. "Ladies first." He Jing nodded and took up her position at the marked boundary, throwing pink darts at the dartboard in quick succession. Except for the first one, slightly off-center, the rest were bullseyes. Chapter 62, Homework. Chapter 62, Homework. The students of First High School watched in stunned silence. On the other hand, He Jing was as cool as a cucumber. "I haven't thrown darts in a long time. I must be rusty." "It's your turn." What was the point of them playing when the odds were stacked against them? The men with brown spots admitted that he would never be able to do the same in his 8 lifetimes and chose to admit defeat. First High School had lost the bet. After leaving the club, He Jing crossed the road and waited at the bus stop for her ride home. She bought a bottle of orange juice and received 4 coins in change, which she stowed in her frog-shaped purse. A tall, handsome young man stood beside her. He was like her guardian angel, keeping her safe from the prying eyes of the other men around. "I'll send you home," he said. He Jing did not answer, seemingly not of a mind for idle chatter. Her head bowed, He Jing answered absent-mindedly, "You don't have to." Yan Hanqi plucked He Jing's school bag off her shoulder and slung it over his. "Miss Merit student, you've kicked the hornet's nest this time." He Jing looked up, growling, "And why would I have kicked the hornet's nest if not for you?" She would not have had to disguise herself and follow Yan Hanqi if he had not gone under her nose to do things. Besides, it was not like she could leave, the laws governing the novel world would not allow her. It was only right that she, as the adult between them, ensured that the young saplings of her country did not grow wayward or crooked. Yan Hanshi chuckled. Ah. So you would lie and deceive others if it meant maintaining the integrity of the school's reputation. Let me applaud you for being one of the top 10 students in this country, then. There was nothing wrong with her being among the top 10 in the country, or so He Jing thought. She had always been a positive person. Since you're so set in your ways and believe we should part, let's settle the score regarding you calling the police and claiming to be my mother, Yan Hanshi said. He Jing had already thought it through and answered calmly, if it's money you want, I haven't got any. I only have this life of mine. Yan Hanshi quirked a brow. He knew He Jing was bold and stubborn, but not to this extent. He tried for a compromise that would settle the itch in his heart. Quietly, with a honeyed voice like a cello playing on the G string, he asked, won't you give me a chance? She, of course, would not give him a chance. He Jing could not be bothered to respond to the human-shaped flirting device next to her. When the bus arrived, she dropped a coin in the till, paid for her fare, and got on the bus. Yan Hanshi remained behind, his hand in his pocket. He did not go against He Jing's wishes, but that did not mean he could not enjoy himself, and enjoy himself he did, a Cheshire smile playing on his lips. The next day, He Jing went to school early and saw Yan Hanshi sitting in his seat. He seemed to be in high spirits. When he heard her entering, he turned to greet her, offering her a faint grin, "Good morning, Miss Merit student." All the girls in the class looked at them. "Excuse me," He Jing said expressionlessly. Her seat was next to Yan Hanshi, which he could not reach with his leg blocking the way. Yan Hanshi lifted his leg out of the way with a raised brow. She had just taken her seat when their form teacher bustled into class, saying, "Student He Jing, please bring your homework to my office later." He Jing's expression froze. She put down her bag and took out her homework from the previous day. "Excuse me," she said to Yan Hanshi. This time, Yan Hanshi did not oblige. He kicked his legs up and rested them on his desk. "I haven't handed in my homework either. Aren't you going to ask for O dash?" She would have forgotten if Yan Hanshi had not mentioned it. "Your homework, please," He Jing requested icily, her hand outstretched and waiting. Yan Hanshi admired He Jing's fair skin and supple flesh, especially her hands and the lines that marked tracks along her open palm. "Miss Merit student," he began, his voice tickling the hearts of those who heard him with feather-like touches, "is it so hard to get homework from the big, bad bully? Why don't you try another approach?" How could she be bothered with another approach? "Do you think I'm trapped just because you won't let me through?" He Jing demanded. Chapter 63, A Ruthless Deduction Machine. Chapter 63, A Ruthless Deduction Machine. "Aha," Yan Hanshi said in an affected falsetto. Supporting her weight with one hand, He Jing vaulted over the table. The papers in her arm did not so much as flutter in the wind generated by the force of her vault. So elegant was she as He Jing steadied herself that she could put nationally acclaimed gymnasts to shame. Yan Hanshi's grin grew larger as he praised, "Impressive." Opening her duty book that kept track of students and their assignments, she jotted down a sentence: "Failure to submit homework on time will result in a 10-point deduction." He Jing was utterly ruthless in her approach, behaving like a point deduction machine. It was a total defeat for Yan Hanshi. Rubbing his forehead, he smiled helplessly. "How can there be a girl like you? Shouldn't someone flush when they are embarrassed? To be so emotionless." Still, it was one reason Yan Hanshi was so interested in her. The more she acted outside his expectations, the more attention he showered her with. He Jing did her rounds and collected the homework from her peers, carrying the stack taller than she was to the teacher's office. "Sister Jing, let me help you." Wu Yu eagerly volunteered himself upon seeing He Jing's situation. However, someone else beat him to the punch before he could attempt to take the load off He Jing's hands. Wu Yu and Yan Hanshi looked at each other. Wu Yu quivered in his shoes. Ah. He understood Yan Hanshi despite no words being shared between them. He was not worthy of this opportunity. He Jing did not care what Yan Hanshi wanted to do, and she let him do as he pleased, stepping out of the classroom with him in tow. He Jing could not have known how her actions stirred up the class as soon as she stepped out. Cheng Yi had just arrived at school when she heard someone say, "Boss Yan seems to like He Jing's type." She'd become the school belle easily if she fought for it. He Jing is prettier than Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi's pretty, not unlike a delicate flower in clear water. She has He Jing beat in temperament, but He Jing outshines her in beauty. Those facial features, they're amazing. She looks good even without trying. Standing beside Cheng Yi, Lu Sisi said, Xiao Yi, don't take it to heart. Your votes put you firmly in first place compared to all the others. Even if people prefer He Jing to you, you'll still be the school belle at the end of the day. Cheng Yi felt a little better. She offered Lu Sisi a warm smile as she shook her head. I don't mind. At this moment, there was a commotion outside the classroom. Someone barged in from outside and said in between pants, a third-year student is here. She said she was looking for you, Cheng Yi. All eyes turned to Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi returned their looks with befuddlement. She had never interacted with her seniors, so why would one of them be looking for her? Hesitantly, Cheng Yi stepped out to greet her upperclassmen. A large group of people crowded around the door, filling the hallway. A few students from the neighboring class popped their heads out to see what was happening. An immensely beautiful girl with long hair dyed fashionably in the shade of ash stuck out from the crowd. She had exquisite features, making her look like a porcelain doll. She wore the top half of the school uniform, exchanging the bottom half with a miniskirt, which showed off a ferocious tattoo on her thigh. Cheng Yi recognized her at a glance. It was Su Bai, the senior currently competing with her for the title of school belle. She was currently ranked second. For an inexplicable reason, Cheng Yi's heart skipped a beat. Even the transfer student is so arrogant now, Su Bai said. She refuses to come out and greet me. Do I need to invite her out despite being her senior? Someone noticed Cheng Yi in the crowd, forcing her to declare her presence known. I'm here, I'm here. The crowd of spectators took a step back, giving Cheng Yi and Su Bai some room. Only Zhang Men and Lu Sisi remained by Cheng Yi's side. Su Bai's overwhelming presence was so great that they dared not speak. Cheng Yi was not much better, gripping the hem of her skirt and hiding her panic behind an elegant smile. She smiled serenely, pure and harmless, and asked, Senior, is there something you need from me? Chapter 64, Sweeping Votes. Chapter 64, Sweeping Votes. Su Bai sized her up with a smile full of teeth. Oh, nothing much. Cheng Yi felt that Su Bai's gaze was unfriendly. She paled, turning as white as a sheet as she clenched the hem of her skirt. Since there's nothing wrong, Senior Su Bai, I'll return to class and continue with my revision. She tried to excuse herself and leave with her two best friends. However, Su Bai's words, laced with sarcasm, forced her to stop. I didn't expect the black horse of the campus belle competition, a girl who gained more than 400 votes in less than a day, would look like this. It's really strange. Su Bai's entourage of boys snickered, eyeing Cheng Yi in disdain. They had voted for Su Bai and wanted her to win. They were the ones who noticed the sharp increase in Cheng Yi's votes, which threatened Su Bai's position as campus belle. Most recently, Cheng Yi had surpassed Su Bai. There was no doubt in their minds that the votes had been tampered with. A quick investigation revealed a few clues. Clues that pointed at the most culpable suspect. Hence, they had come looking for trouble. Cheng Yi spun around, a hint of annoyance peeking through her genteel facade. Senior, what do you mean by that? You know very well what I mean, Su Bai said. I have evidence. Let's watch the footage together next Monday. Cheng Yi's heart skipped a beat. She shot Zhang Men a questioning look and met her friend's panicked expression. Gritting her teeth, Cheng Yi did the only thing she could, she smiled apologetically at Su Bai. Senior, Su Bai ignored her and addressed her fans instead, let's go. They left without looking back. Cheng Yi felt a chill settle in her bones, freezing her with an arctic chill. She glared at Zhang Men angrily and dragged her to the ladies' room. It was almost time for class, so the ladies was unoccupied. Zhang Men squeaked in panic, I don't know what happened. That know-it-all from the neighboring school accepted the money and said he would help us get the votes. Cheng Yi immediately drew her own conclusions. That know-it-all must have taken the money but found the issue too troublesome to manage. Along the way, Su Bai must have discovered the troll army that person had gotten to vote, hence, her appearance just now was a power play to embarrass her publicly. Xiao Yi, don't be so harsh on Zhangmen, Lu Sisi interjected. There's no point scolding her. We should focus on damage control, and maybe we can reverse the situation. Zheng Yi calmed down upon hearing Lu Sisi's words. Angry and dejected, she lamented, what else can we do? The only way to salvage my reputation is to withdraw from the competition. Su Bai would have no reason to come for her then. At the very least, it would open the possibility for her to settle things privately with Su Bai. As long as she was sincere enough, Su Bai would likely let the matter go. Lu Sisi was silent for a moment before she suddenly said something shocking, why don't we push this matter onto Yi Jing? Zheng Yi was so shocked she failed to comprehend Lu Sisi's intentions. Zhang Men immediately clapped in agreement and said, all right, what should we do? We've got to find a way to push the blame onto Yi Jing, Lu Sisi said slowly. This way, Xiao Yi can continue to run for the title of school belle, and Yi Jing will have no face to remain. Since Su Bai knows about the vote fixing and has evidence to back her claims, we'll need to get creative. Maybe we cook up a story about a mix-up between Yi Jing and Xiao Yi's identity as a real and fake heiress, making everyone believe Yi Jing was jealous of Xiao Yi and would do anything to frame her. This. Zheng Yi was wildly tempted. If all went according to plan, she would be killing two birds with one stone. Not only could she be the school belle, but she could also crush Yi Jing's influence. However, the matter was easier said than done. Lu Sisi mulled over the issue and said, we'll need a witness. While Su Bai had physical proof, they would have witnesses. In this way, no one would know who was telling the truth. As long as people believed their claims, and Yi Jing had no means to explain herself, the night of the competition's finale would be the altar on which her good name would be sacrificed. Part 3 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.